WISN 12 News with breaking news.
Good morning. It is 11:55 and we're breaking into programming. The mayor about to address the mass shooting in downtown Milwaukee last night. Now, here's what we know. There were 3 separate shootings that left a total of 21 people injured. The first happened just after 9 steps from Fiserv Forum near MLK Drive in Highland. 3 people were shot there. At 10:30, a 20-year-old man was shot near Water in Juneau, and then just after 11 p.m., 17 people were shot at that same location. So let's get right to 12 News' Nick Bohr. He's standing by waiting for the mayor to address the city. Now, Nick, police say they've already arrested 11 people so far.
Right, and this investigation is still very much underway, of course. The totals are shocking. 21 people shot, 9 guns recovered, 11 people arrested, as you mentioned. And this is really from 3 separate incidents, 2 of them leading up to that third one in which 17 people were shot. But we can run through them here. The first one happening around 9:12 p.m. at MLK and Juneau. 3 people were shot there. That was very near the Deer District. A 16-year-old girl and 2 men ages 26 and 29. 1 person arrested. That was a 19-year-old man in that incident. Then move forward about an hour and 20 minutes at Water and Juneau. 1 person was shot. That was a 20-year-old man. No one was arrested in that incident there yet. And then the third incident, which came about 40 minutes later at 11:09 p.m. also at Water and Juneau. 17 people shot in that case. The victims range in age from 15 to 47 years old. 10 people arrested there, 9 guns recovered. So these 21 people shot, all coming in less than 2 hours, about 1 hour and 57 minutes according to the police count. Obviously, a miracle that no one has died in this, and all are expected to survive according to Milwaukee police statements. We are waiting here, as you mentioned, for the mayor to speak about this incident last night. We're also expected to hear from the police department. The chief is out of town, we're told, at a conference, but some high-ranking member of the department will be here. The fire department as well as the downtown business representatives here as well. This is, of course, a huge concern. Foremost, of course, for the people who were injured in this case and the victims involved, but also just for the impact on the city itself going forward. How will the Deer District be affected? How will Milwaukee respond to this? What will happen with people's willingness to come to downtown Milwaukee for events? So a lot of concerns, certainly even beyond just the physical well-being of the people who were hurt in this instance, is the future of Milwaukee. You know, we've been lobbying, of course, for a Republican and Democratic national conventions coming up. Do these types of things impact the image of the city going forward? So certainly a lot of concerns. We'll be hearing from the mayor here shortly, waiting for him to arrive here, which was set for a noon news conference.
Yeah, and that's right, Nick. No, you just mentioned it's set for noon, and now it doesn't appear that anyone is standing at the podium quite yet. Has Mayor Cavalier Johnson arrived, or have you seen any officials arrive there yet?
Just the mayor's spokesman is here. He said he's running a little bit late. I did ask if he was out at the scene last night. He said he doesn't believe that he went to the scene proper. And obviously this was after the Bucks playoff game last night. The largest shooting was nearly 2 hours after the game ended, and again several blocks away from Fiserv Forum, across the river and a few blocks down. We're here on Water Street and State. Juneau, of course, a few blocks up, and happened between Highland and Juneau is where the bulk of this happened. 18 of the 21 people who were shot right up the street here on Water Street. And of course, you know, Water Street's been an entertainment district here in Milwaukee for many years, and there have been periods of concern about violence in this area breaking out during certain events. Last year, of course, there was a shooting after one of the Bucks playoff games that caused great alarm, and there were questions again raised about whether there was enough policing in the area, enough security. Metal detectors were added into the Deer District proper, where people were going before and after the games, but outside of that, of course, there haven't been any metal detectors on Water Street itself. It does, something like this happens, it raises the question of whether that would be something that should be implemented in this case. It's a massive area, though, to try to have security over the entire Water Street stretch seems very difficult to have, say, metal detectors installed at every entrance or something like that. That's again going to be something that the mayor will be talking about, or at least asked about today, about how do you improve security measures, and should we be having massive events with people gathered outside the Deer District? Is that just not going to be something going forward? So that is certainly part of that concern with the business community as well, again, beyond the immediate well-being of the people who were shot.
That's right, Nick. Well, thank you. We will come back to you as soon as that press conference starts. It's supposed to be at noon. Mayor Cavalier Johnson will be addressing the mass shooting that happened last night, where 17 people were shot. 3 shootings in total happened just shortly after 9 o'clock. Now, we will be going through that just a little bit in case you're tuning in now. What we do know so far is that the first happened just after 9 steps from Fiserv Forum near MLK Drive in Highland. 3 people were shot there, and at 10:30, a 20-year-old man was shot near Water and Juneau, and this just after 11 p.m. 17 people were shot at that same location. And Nick Bohr is standing by at Red Arrow Park, waiting for a news conference where Mayor Cavalier Johnson will be addressing the city. Now, we have the police and fire dispatch recordings describing the scene as the violence unfolded. Now, this is from the mass shooting near Water and Juneau.
Highland Command Dispatch updated in this location. We have multiple people struck by gunfire. All the patients that MPD has identified are being attended to. They will all be transported shortly as soon as we can get transport units to arrive.
Well, earlier this morning, I spoke with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley and asked him about the violence following the Bucks game.
When this is a time when you actually should be having communities come together, celebrating what we have going on in our own hometown. But I think this speaks to a lot of issues that have been going on for a lot of years. When we think about the spectrum of mental wellness, I think there are a lot of people who need some assistance in just having some conversations, because anyone who decides to bring a gun into spaces, in places where you have thousands of people, they need some help.
Well, 12 News' Matt Smith captured the aftermath in the streets this morning. Blood, broken glass, and evidence markers along Water Street.
Investigators were out here for some 7+ hours, remnants of a mass shooting on the curb, glass, blood. If we come over here, this is the MSOE building. Numerous evidence markers remain here from this police investigation, and this just shows the gravity. A bullet hole now taped up at the MSOE building. The sun rose to expose a long and violent night.
All of a sudden, we heard shots being fired in that direction over there, and then over here, and then the cop nearly getting hit over here.
Milwaukee Saturday morning, cleaning up. The chaos staining the sidewalks and roadways near Water and Juneau.
I was about out. I'm looking, man.
And the minds of witnesses and residents nearby.
Just like, the gun's crazy. They was down here, everybody had a gun. Everybody had a gun. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you really couldn't go nowhere. Everywhere you turned, it was some type of altercation where somebody had a gun out.
Hearing some of those firsthand accounts, investigators too at this hour looking to talk to additional witnesses as this investigation widens. Downtown, I'm Matt Smith, WISN 12 News.
Well, this afternoon, Governor Tony Evers reacting to the shootings. In a tweet, he wrote, quote, "Kathy and I are heartbroken by last night's horrific acts of gun violence in Milwaukee. We are thinking of all the people who were injured and are praying for their full recovery. And we are thinking of the many people affected by the senseless tragedy." All right, Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson has arrived. Nick Bohr is standing by at Red Arrow Park awaiting a news conference. Nick, is Cavalier Johnson, or is Mayor Cavalier Johnson arrived?
He is. We're here at Red Arrow Park. He's right on the other side of the ice rink right now, and he's talking with several officials from the police department, deputy chiefs, I believe, and they're just kind of getting together what it is that they want to say at this point. And as we go to the listing of what happened here, just reviewing that one more time. This all started around 9:12 last night outside of Fiserv Forum, just outside the Deer District technically, at MLK and Juneau. 3 people shot there, a 16-year-old girl and 2 men ages 26 and 29. 1 person was arrested there, a 19-year-old man. Then moved forward about an hour and 15 minutes to 10:30, Water and Juneau here, a few blocks away. 1 person was shot. It was a 20-year-old man there. No one was arrested. And then at the same location, 40 minutes later, Water and Juneau, 17 people were shot, victims ranging in age from 15 to 47. 10 people were arrested. So by then, of course, as if there weren't enough police around to begin with, there were many, many officers on scene at that point already responding to that earlier shooting when this one took place, and that would account for the 10 people being arrested on site and 9 guns being recovered there. Police saying there could still, of course, be additional arrests made as they continue to investigate this. The bottom line, of course, is the most important thing, that no one was killed, despite the fact that 21 people were shot. They are all expected to survive. That's the word from police. As you see, Mayor Johnson now coming up towards the podium here. So I'm going to toss it back to you as we take our position. But as you can see, the mayor, a very somber Mayor Johnson, walking up to the podium here, and we'll be interested to see what he'll say in response to this mass shooting overnight in Milwaukee.
Thank you, Nick. That's right. We can see that Mayor Cavalier Johnson is approaching the news conference here. It seems like he will be speaking in just a few moments. We are standing by.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm joined today by City Attorney Spencer, by State Senator LaTanya Johnson, by Assistant Chiefs, 2 Assistant Chiefs, both Formolo as well as Waldner. I believe Chief Lipsky from the Fire Department will join us soon. We're also joined today by representatives from Downtown Business Improvement District number 21. And they've all joined with me today because they're troubled, as I am, about what happened here in our city just yesterday, not too far from where we stand. I have no doubt at all that the vast majority of people who came downtown did so with the intention to be nonviolent, to enjoy the atmosphere of the Milwaukee Bucks as they continue on in their playoff run, something that's making our city proud. But unfortunately, there were a small number of people who were not coming down here with those intentions, who wanted to cause destruction in our city. That can't stand. Obviously, again, those people who came down here, they had other intentions in mind, and we need to be focused on those people that do those things. So the police can provide additional details, but a number of arrests were made as a direct result of the actions that happened last night in the city. To be clear, and let me be very clear, I fully expect that when people cause death, harm, and destruction in Milwaukee, that they should be held fully accountable under the law. Right? If folks break the laws, they should be accountable for their actions. I've said that time and time again, that if somebody hurts somebody in this community, if they cause death, if they cause harm, if they cause destruction, they should be held accountable. And by the way, if somebody takes out a gun and they fire that gun into a crowd of people, then guess what? They should go to jail, and they should go to jail for a long time. We cannot have that in this city, nor anywhere else in this state, nor anywhere else in this country. So that's something that we all have to say. And by the way, as well, I'll say this. Before somebody gets to the point where they have a gun and they're upset and their tempers go off and they decide to shoot in a crowd, in a crowd full of people, you got to think about whether or not those folks should have access to a gun in the first place. I don't think it's crazy to say that those people should not. They obviously don't have the responsibility to wield the weapon. So we need to work to make sure that there's repercussions for folks when they do things like that, but we also need to work on the preventative end to make sure that individuals don't have that access to firearms in the first place. So the activity that happened in the Deer District was safe and it was orderly. the activity inside businesses in the area was also entirely lawful. Unfortunately, though, some of the crowds that gathered on Water Street were not. Anywhere in the city when crowds gather and unlawful activity occurs, what's going to happen is that we're going to take action. We're going to do something about it. What happened here in this neighborhood last night, it will not be tolerated. We will not tolerate these sort of actions in Milwaukee. It is unsafe. It's inherently unsafe. We've consulted with legal authorities about options that are before us, and there will be restrictions and limitations in place. To put it simply, if you intend to loiter, if you intend to act out, cut up, if you intend to do anything that is unlawful, then my message is simple. Don't come here. Don't come here. Don't come down here. Don't mess it up for everybody else. Formally, I'm issuing a limited emergency order that imposes a curfew for all individuals under the age of 21 years old in the immediate area for tonight as well as tomorrow night. And that boundary that we're talking about, the entertainment district, will be Bell Phillips Avenue on the west. It'll be Broadway on the east. It'll be Knapp McKinley on the north, and State Street on the south. There'll be additional police in place tonight as well. Other city departments have also been mobilized to help with our efforts to address what's happened. And we've been having planning discussions over the past several hours on the incidents that have been happening here. And when we need additional resources, if that were to happen, we're ready to deploy those resources. To those who were injured last night, I am hoping for a prompt and speedy recovery. You know, you came down to enjoy yourself, to have a good time in our city. And people should be able to do that downtown or anywhere else in Milwaukee. And I want that to continue happening. And we will take the steps to make sure that downtown and our neighborhoods are safe as well. So to the businesses, the residents, and the visitors who also share my alarm, you can be assured that we're moving forward with every reasonable tool that we have. And with that, I'll pass it over to Assistant Chief Waldner.
I'm going to briefly summarize the incidents of last night that occurred in the downtown area. We will be issuing a press release with the ages and information about the victims minus their names later after the conference. We had 3 separate incidents. First one occurred at 9:10 p.m. at 1105 North MLK. 3 victims of non-fatal shootings, and we have 1 person of interest in custody and 1 gun recovered from that incident. The second incident occurred at 1102 North Water at 10:30 p.m. This incident resulted in 1 person injured and an all-city assist requested, which means that any available officer responded downtown to assist with the crowds and the attention that the shootings were getting. It just drew more people to the area. The last shooting occurred at 1154 North Water at 11:09 p.m. That's the incident in which 17 people were injured by gunfire. 5 of those people, 5 of the injured people, were armed and taken into custody. It appears that the last incident, there was a couple groups that exchanging gunfire despite the incredible amount of police presence that was downtown. District 1 officers reported hearing bullets whizzing past their heads as they were there. They had immediate response and took off after the subjects, and we have 10 people in custody for that incident. Out of that last incident, we also had 10 guns recovered from the last incident on Water Street at 11:09 p.m. It took a lot of resources. We had everybody working in. I know you all have questions about what this was about, and I'm going to be honest with you, we are not there yet. We need time to investigate. We have resources coming in early around the clock so that we can get some more information to you as soon as possible. But right now, that's just where we're at.
Can you said for the second incident, 1 person injured. Was there a person arrested or a person?
No, not in the second incident. No one was taken into custody.
Do you believe that second incident led to the third one? Was there some sort of retaliation?
None of them at this point, honestly, seem to be connected. The last incident definitely involved different groups of people. You can see that there was a confrontation between 2 groups that there's just open carrying of firearms. with utter disregard for every single person that just was down there to have a good time and enjoy Water Street and I guess not celebrate the Bucks win, but they were all down there amongst themselves, and a gunfire broke out between two groups of people, and that's how that last incident occurred. It does not appear to be related to the one previous.
In that last incident, you said 17 people, 5 were armed, and in total 10 people in custody. Is that 5 included in that 10?
Yes.
And were any of them carrying those guns unlawfully? Like, what was the status?
We're not there yet, but we found guns under cars, and that brings me to my next point. I know the chief has said this publicly to you all, but we're having a rash of maybe permit carriers, maybe people who lawfully carry their firearms, leaving them in their cars, and that just leads to more guns on the street, because essentially the cars are getting broken into, and now we just armed somebody else. So we're looking into where the guns came from. We're just not there yet.
I know you can't talk specifics about your deployment tonight, tomorrow night, but can we assume there will be more officers on hand tonight and tomorrow night than there might have been last night, or?
We asked for additional resources, and we had a call for additional resources last night as well. It was the perfect storm, and we had many more people downtown than is normal.
Does that include outside agencies when you say additional?
Last night we did have assistance from outside agencies.
From
yes.
what agencies?
So I apologize ahead of time for the people I forgot. Marquette, UWM, and Wauwatosa for sure.
Sorry. You said that despite the massive police presence, this still happened. I mean, what does that say about respect for law enforcement in this town when there's lights everywhere and they're still popping off?
I think it goes further than respect for law enforcement. I think it goes toward respecting human life. I mean, despite if the police were there or not, what makes people think that they can just have a shootout on a public street in our entertainment district, whether the police are there or not? There are people that just went there that just enjoy Water Street, enjoyed the Deer District, wanted to see the Bucks game. And so there's this lack of consciousness that is really hard to police right now, right? It is not only a police problem, it's a community problem. I wish I knew how to fix it alone, but we're in constant communication with all our partners. But I think it goes beyond law enforcement. It's human life.
Considering what occurred last night and what was in place, why do you think what is being done tonight and in the coming days is going to solve or prevent this from happening?
Well, I'm hoping awareness, honestly. We're here, we're telling everybody about it, and it's not to scare people, but just we need awareness, right? We need to be all conscious of the fact that this is happening. And I know that there are people out there that fled or that left that saw something. If they could call and let us know what happened, we have people in custody, but that doesn't mean we have everybody in custody. And you heard the mayor say already, everyone should be held accountable. So if anyone has information out there, we still have more people involved than we have in custody.
Just a practical question about the curfew. What is the time? How will that be enforced? Will you be arresting people? How's that going to work?
Yes, it's a citation, much like we implemented in 2020, I believe. And the time starts at 11 p.m.
You said it's for 21 and under, correct? How many of these suspects?
Under 21.
How many of these suspects fit that description?
We didn't get to the ages and everything, but I can tell you that the victims and the suspects vary with ages, from juveniles to
How many
adults.
of these shots were fired from cars versus...
I can't answer
Were
that.
any shots fired from cars?
I can't answer. Not that I'm not answering, I just don't know at this point.
We can give an opportunity for others who might want to speak now.
Before anyone else takes the mic, and I'm happy to lend it over to the others here. And thank you, by the way, again, to the city attorney who's here, who's been a partner. Thank you as well to Senator Johnson, who's here, who has absolutely been a partner as well. What Assistant Chief Waldner just mentioned is key. This is not just a policing problem. This is a community problem, right? If somebody pulls a trigger anywhere in Milwaukee and somebody sees something happening, then folks have got to speak up. Because guess what? If they're willing to do that in a crowd of thousands of people downtown with police all around, they're going to go in your neighborhoods and do the same thing. Like, if they got no respect for life amongst all those folks, they certainly won't have it in the neighborhoods either. So we need people to step up and to say something. If you see something, they need to say something. And I've said this time and again, look, if you're not comfortable talking to police directly, they have an anonymous tip line. You can use the anonymous tip line. If you're not comfortable talking to police at all, you can call Crime Stoppers. They also have an anonymous tip line. If you're not comfortable talking to police and you're not comfortable talking to Crime Stoppers, we have an Office of Violence Prevention that you can reach out to. Call them. Even if you're not comfortable talking to police and you're not comfortable talking to Crime Stoppers and you're not comfortable talking to the Office of Violence Prevention, then you can reach out to your elected official, and your elected official on your behalf anonymously can get that information to the authorities so that they can work to make sure that they can prosecute the folks who are doing bad things in our neighborhoods. This is about everybody stepping up. There is no room on the sidelines for anybody. Everybody's got to be in the game. It's not just police. It's not just city government. It's people out there in the neighborhoods who, if you got family members who you know or friends that you know are out there doing bad things, you got to talk them out of it. And if they do bad things, and I pray that they don't, but if they do, if they hurt somebody else, another member of our community, then you have got to say something. Because guess what? If somebody did that to your family, then you'd want somebody to stand up and say something on your family's behalf too. So all of us have to be in the game on this. It's not just police. It cannot just be police. It's all of us together.
Mayor, this happened right in front of all these officers. Do you advocate stronger sentences or mandatory minimums or something for firearm crimes to where people know that there will be consequences? Listen, is that part of the problem?
Listen, I think a central part of the problem is the fact that individuals easily get their hands on guns. Not just in Milwaukee. This is not strictly a Milwaukee problem. Across the country, we've seen a rise in shootings, both fatal and non-fatal. And I think the issues are very similar. That people have too easy access to guns, point blank. Again, if somebody is going to take out a gun and shoot it in a crowd full of people, I mean, we could take a poll right here. Who thinks that those people should have access to guns? I don't think that's a crazy thing to say that they should not. Let's work to make sure that they don't, so that we don't have instances like this that then affect our economy, that affect our city, that affect public safety generally. We can solve this. We have the ability to do this. We just need the will. And when you think about the systems at play, that's a state system. You think about here on the ground in the city's contribution to this effort. We have police. And we have other things too, but we have police as a primary partner in law enforcement. And what did they do? They stopped folks. They arrested 10 people. They took 10 guns off the street. But those people, I'm telling you, those 10 people, if they're going to shoot guns like that in a place like this with all those folks around, they shouldn't have had them in the first place. They should not have had them in the first place. And if they continue to have it, they're making the police's job harder.
Mayor Johnson, what is the city doing to address the root causes of this? Since the pandemic, homicides have nearly doubled in the city, and in this year they're almost up 45%. What is, and this is COVID, it's affecting people. What is the city doing to address those root causes?
We're doing a number of things to address the root causes. I was just having conversations just earlier this week with some of our partners in nonprofit organizations, and trying to find ways to alert not just young people but also their parents about the availability of the number of youth programs that we have in Milwaukee. There's no reason at all that a young person in Milwaukee this summer should not have access to something to keep them engaged, right? There should be no idle time. And we have partners out there, whether it's the United Neighborhood Centers of Milwaukee, the Boys and Girls Club, places like that, that want to be out there, that want to help, that want to engage young people. So we're having those conversations, and we'll be working to elevate that. When we got the initial tranche of ARPA dollars, we put the largest investment ever into housing. And we're working to tackle that root cause of instability in the home. I have said, I mentioned this just yesterday to a room of business leaders. We need to pay folks a living wage in Milwaukee so that folks have some stability. If we can have stability in people's lives, that creates stability in families. And if there's stability in families and stability in neighborhoods, it changes the way that people interact when they're on the streets or whether they're in the school. So there are a number of things that we are actively working on right now.
And what do you say to Republicans who say this is a Democratic city, they're soft on crime?
Well, look, this is not a partisan thing. This is about lives. It's not partisan at all, right? We've got incidents across this state where people get shot by folks who should not have guns. okay? As I said, at the city's end, our contribution, we do our job. Our police officers, they go out there, they catch the bad guys, they take the guns off the street. We don't control gun law at the local level. I wish that we did, but we don't. That's something for Madison to work out. And I implore, my partners in Madison that I am intent to work with to open your eyes to what's happening here in Milwaukee. I mean, just think about it, right? If public safety becomes an issue downtown and folks stop spending their dollars here and people stop coming here for things like we had last night, that impacts state coffers as well. They get the sales tax revenue from that. This impacts the entire state. So I would implore our partners at the state to see the lives that are being lost needlessly, senselessly, because folks have too easy access to guns, not just in Milwaukee, but across our state.
Have you talked about whether there'll be a Deer District watch party tomorrow night?
I don't have that information right now.
In addition to the curfew, the food truck area down there attracts a lot of folks. A lot of folks last night after the crowd let out into the Deer District loitered, pooled around there. Curfew aside, has there been any thought about maybe curbing capacity or eliminating that area?
Yeah, absolutely.
Questions
And that's absolutely something that is under consideration for us. Look, I want to do everything that's within our power in order to curb the incidents that we saw last night. I know that that's a place that folks congregate, so that's an area that I'm looking at too.
Some of these things were done, I believe, last summer, right around this time when there were issues that were occurring here on Water Street. Do you feel that those efforts were successful and we're just seeing a repeat of that?
I know that last year we did have some similar incidents, and look, when I was on the other side of City Hall, we sprung into action with the business community, with other elected officials, and worked up some solutions along with the police department and others. And so I think there was some success last year, and there's possibilities to bring some of those things back this time as well.
The latest of these shootings happened after 11. The first two happened before 11 o'clock. Is 11 rated too late for the curfew?
Look, I think that anything that we can do to send the message to discourage folks from coming down is a positive thing. I'm not going to say that 11 o'clock is too late because folks have the ability to go out and enjoy our streets, and I want to provide that opportunity as well. But still send the message. Still send the message to those folks who would cause death, harm, destruction that they are not welcome down here to do those things that impact so many factors, so many facets of our life in the city.
And the assistant chief mentioned that some of these guns that are out here are legally obtained and are taken out of cars, and they are, concealed carry weapons that are just taken. So is the solution really to find out where the illegal guns are coming from?
It's all of the above. It's all the above. Like, we got to work on the issue of illegal guns. We also have to work to make sure that if somebody's gun who was lawfully gotten and lawfully held and it's stolen, that if that happens, that gets reported. It happens too often as well that when guns go missing and nobody says anything. We need people to be in the game. We need everybody to step up to be a part of the solution. If you have got a gun that's been stolen, you got to speak up, because somebody's going to use. If they stole it from you, the likelihood is they're going to go and use it. They're going to go out into our city and they're going to hurt somebody. So speak up about that. And I've talked at length again about the need for family members, friends, mentors, teachers, preachers, whomever, to reach out to the folks that they have influence with and get them to think twice about their actions, especially when they're thinking about using a gun.
One more thing on the curfew. When does it end? Will the National Guard be here to help enforce this? And will there be checkpoints?
There's this is today and tomorrow. And look,
but what time in the morning? Like till when?
There you go.
Till 5:30.
So you got the answer there. And look, I'm not going to say what we're not going to do, because I want to leave all the options on the table. Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, everyone. I want you to know I'm City Attorney Spencer. I'm here to show united front with this administration and our law enforcement. So the only thing I have to say is, for the young folks in the community committing the crimes, don't do it. Don't do it. The support of the City Attorney's Office will stand totally behind what law enforcement do and what the administration enforces. So It's a collective effort, and we're one.
Hello, I'm State Senator LaTanya Johnson, and I would just like to say that this is unacceptable, and the state legislature needs to do more. We need to close the loopholes on all of these guns that are wreaking havoc on our streets. It's not enough that our residents are being shot, and in some cases the children that reside in the city are being shot, because we have an uptick in children being shot under the age of 17. But we're now starting to see it in our Wisconsin Center District. The city of Milwaukee generates millions of dollars in tourism for the state. And much of that money is sent to the state, and very little of it comes back to these streets. This is not just a matter of keeping the Wisconsin Center District safe, which we need to do that, but it's about making sure that every resident that calls Milwaukee home has the same opportunity to enjoy all of the festivities as the surrounding states. We are not only putting our residents in danger, we are putting our police officers in danger too, because they are outgunned. And we need to make sure that we have legislation in place that would address that. And if the state doesn't want to pass legislation that would, garner more gun restrictions for the entire state, then they could allow Milwaukee the opportunity to regulate the guns for themselves. But this is a clear case of we have to do more. We have to make sure that we are protecting our citizens, those individuals who call Milwaukee home, and it's long overdue. We cannot continue to utilize all of the city's resources to address issues that are wreaking havoc on the city by just a few. We need to make sure that those individuals who have guns are law-abiding citizens who should have them, and not individuals who have managed to get their hands on guns that shouldn't.
We've been in touch with them at this point.
Yeah, it's not that they're missing from the conversation. That's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
We had multiple conversations with our needed today.
Yep.
All right, so just in summary, curfew, there'll be ticket and towing. We'll be working on the food trucks that act as a congregant for folks who come down here. I did not mention, but I have had conversations with the governor's office on possible solutions here. There's nothing concrete just yet. So we're working every angle that we've got in order to address the issue. Right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, folks, well, you've just been watching the news conference on last night's mayhem following the Bucks and Celtics game. 21 people were shot in 3 separate shootings in downtown Milwaukee. Now, we want to recap, and here's what we know. At 9 p.m. last night, a gunman shot 3 people at MLK in Highland, right by Deer District. The victims included a 16-year-old girl and a 29 and 26-year-old man. 2 different men there, 29 and 26-year-old. Police arrested a 19-year-old man, and everyone is expected to survive. Now at 10:30 at Water in Juneau, a 20-year-old man was shot, and he is expected to survive. And then at 11:09, again near Water in Juneau, 17 people were shot. The victims' ages range from 15 to 47. Police arresting 10 people and confiscating 10 firearms. We just learned that number was updated from 9 to now 10. And we have the police and fire dispatch recordings describing the scene as the violence unfolded. And this is from the mass shooting near Water in Juneau.
Highland Command Dispatch updated in this location. We have multiple people struck by gunfire. All the patients that MPD has identified are being attended to. They will all be transported shortly as soon as we can get transport units to arrive.
Now, earlier this morning, I spoke with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley and asked him about the violence following the Bucks game.
When this is a time when you actually should be having communities come together celebrating what we have going on in our own hometown. But I think this speaks to a lot of issues that have been going on for a lot of years. When we think about the spectrum of mental wellness, I think there are a lot of people who need some assistance in just having some conversations, because anyone who decides to bring a gun into spaces, in places where you have thousands of people, they need some help.
12 News' Matt Smith captured the aftermath in the streets this morning. Blood, broken glass, and evidence markers along Water Street.
Investigators were out here for some 7+ hours, remnants of a mass shooting on the curb, glass, blood. If we come over here, this is the MSOE building. Numerous evidence markers remain here from this police investigation, and this just shows the gravity. A bullet hole now taped up at the MSOE building.
The sun rose to expose a long and violent night.
All of a sudden, we heard shots being fired in that direction over there, and then over here, and then the cop nearly getting hit over here.
Milwaukee Saturday morning cleaning up. The chaos staining the sidewalks and roadways near Water and Juneau.
I was about out. I'm looking, man.
And the minds of witnesses and residents nearby.
Just like, the gun's crazy. They was down here, everybody had a gun. Everybody had a gun. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you really couldn't go nowhere. Everywhere you turned, it was some type of altercation where somebody had a gun out.
Hearing some of those firsthand accounts, investigators too at this hour looking to talk to additional witnesses as this investigation widens. Downtown, I'm Matt Smith, WISN 12 News.
Well, this afternoon, Governor Tony Evers reacting to the shootings in a tweet. He wrote, quote, "Kathy and I are heartbroken by last night's horrific acts of gun violence in Milwaukee. We are thinking of all the people who were injured and are praying for their full recovery. And we are thinking of the many people affected by this senseless tragedy." Now, tonight and tomorrow, there will be a curfew at 11 p.m. Police will be issuing citations for anyone under 21 years of age that is out. That curfew will run until 5:30 in the morning. Now, 12 News did ask if there will be a Deer District party tomorrow, and the mayor said he did not know. Now, you can stay up to date on the shootings on the 12 News mobile app. We'll have the latest on the top of the app's homepage, including sound from officials and witnesses. For now, we return you to regularly scheduled programming. We will have the latest on 12 News at 5.
You've been watching breaking news coverage from WISN 12 News. Stay with WISN 12.